Happy Monday! Eileen Street here. I'm making snow angels in Somerset, Kentucky. I'm standing on the property of a guy named Paul Bocci, lived here for 36 years. In fact, this right here would have been his front door. I'm in front of the Hall of Justice. Right now I can feel a burning in my nose. There was some tear gas that was thrown. You can probably see my eyes tearing up right now. You think that it is making the roads safer, but sometimes the plows will just literally brush away the snow to reveal black ice. This is Boone, who isn't teaching people how to ride, but rather grab the reins in other areas of their life. 100% bilingual doctor's office called La Clínica Preston, en donde todos los empleados hablan español y inglés. Translated, meaning that all of the employees there speak Spanish and English. This facility holds 300 fridges, and in one of these fridges, 130,000 COVID-19 doses for adults can be held. And LMPD did say that they had to move out of the street, and most protesters did comply and move down to where they are right now. And some features of exhibits have been removed. For example, normally here you'd have that red punching bag, but not here to help minimize contact. Definitely go out. It's a lot of fun. Reporting in Somerset, Eileen Street, back to you in the studio.
Let's go.
Brian McManus says he started driving semi-trucks when he was 18 years old and got his commercial driving license at 21. So the open road has been his office for over 30 years.
It's a job that you have to be passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, you'll never last.
And many truck drivers don't, which is partly why there's a truck driver shortage.
It's been a while ago.
The 49-year-old says he started to see a change in the number of truckers in the late 90s.
An ongoing thing for a couple of years, but it has really hit home since COVID.
Which has also hit the trucking industry beyond the shortage of drivers.
The lack of freight moving, customers not being there to receive their goods, shippers not being there to load us.
Pre-pandemic, McManus says everything flowed smoother.
You'd get to the shipper, you'd get loaded, you'd get out. Hour and a half tops. I went to Ohio last night and I sat in Ohio for almost 5 hours before I got loaded.
The American Trucking Association, or ATA, estimates that the U.S. truck driver shortage will hit a historic high this year, needing just over 80,000 drivers to fill the gap, compared to under 60,000 in 2020. ATA says there isn't a single cause for the driver shortage, but some reasons are high retirement rates.
One more time, we do the tug test just to be sure.
And the lifestyle, being away from home days to weeks on end.
And we are locked in.
And the pandemic made things worse. Some drivers left the industry, and 2020 turned out less potential hires since truck driver training schools were closed. Plus, supply chain issues exacerbated the already high turnover rate in the industry.
With the pandemic and everybody being short on drivers, yes, you had a lot of companies jockeying back and forth, offering different things, trying to track drivers away from each other.
John Paul Groves, president of Hill Transportation Services, says the company lost about 10% of its drivers. So in September, they boosted salaries by about 15 to 20%. So regional drivers like McManus now make about $100,000 versus just over $80,000. And increased salaries also came with a silver lining.
So obviously it's a negative for some of our customers because we have to raise the rates. But for us right now, we seem to be getting a little bit better quality driver, and it's kind of helped our fleet.
It is not an easy job.
But it's the perfect job for McManus.
And this is what trucking is all about. Seeing this country and meeting different people. This is why my heart is in this job. I love it.
Your heart has to be in it. The biggest requirement, McManus says, to do this job. Eileen Street, Spectrum News.
In the household is a fine piano selected.
Meet Kate Prince.
For $30 cash and $10 per month until the instrument is paid for.
The 34-year-old is on a mission to confirm what year her family farm's log cabin that used to sit behind her was built. Newspapers wedged between windows for cheap insulation offer clues.
There's several ads. It was around Christmas time. and it's from 1886, and it's quite amazing.
What's also amazing is seeing a log cabin, at least 136 years old, withstand an EF4 tornado. It was disassembled after Christmas because Prince wants to add it to her home.
And I don't think I'll be able to completely replicate the exact shape because it was one cabin, dog trot, another cabin. So the cabins were actually separated. So I'll have to combine them to make a room of decent size. Anything, a date, year, we may not find something, but I hope we do eventually.
These are axe marks.
Prince's dad, who grew up in the log cabin, says the family believes it was built in 1883. Made of poplar wood, the logs are hand-hewn.
There's a lot of monetary value here. I've already had several people wanting to buy the logs. Of course, that's not going to happen. We're going to keep them for our own family history.
I think about how smart the people must have been to be able to design it, fit the logs, create the logs, cut the logs. They have a lot of history in them, a lot more than people realize, I think.
History is etched on the walls. It's also in them.
My granddaddy was here, and my dad and all of us kids, we were raised here. Right there was my bedroom.
Prince grew up down the road, but visited her great-grandparents here often.
You feel the memories, you just don't see them. But that's one reason I'm just so thankful that I get to take the logs to my house.
A silver lining, she says, to come out of the tornado's destruction of their family farm, where the 6th generation is now growing up.
The barbershop has always been a hub for galvanization within African American community.
Sitting in J. Divine Alexander's barber chair can lead to more than just a haircut, or as Elliot Kelly Jr. puts it,
it's a lot more. It's an opportunity to feel emotionally safe, which, a lot of times just black men don't get the opportunity to do.
Alexander is the Kentucky ambassador for the Confess Project. Based in Arkansas, the organization trains barbers nationwide to be mental health advocates.
So you have people that are, such as myself, a barber, who people generally talk to, about certain things, and it helps them feel comfortable in doing so. And then if they need a resource, then I could be that resource and extend my hand to present them an opportunity to seek help somewhere else.
The aim is to normalize men of color talking about their mental health, with barbers using 4 principles: active listening, positive reinforcement, validation, and stigma reduction.
It's okay to be in that type of position or that situation and feel okay about talking about it. We have to remove those stigmas that it's no longer comfortable or uncomfortable to discuss those things, because now we can. So we just want to remove the stigma.
Remove the stigma around talking about mental health, especially for black men.
Most of the time, people just need an ear. And the biggest thing we can do is listen. Sometimes people just want to talk. They don't want to answer. They don't want a solution per se.
Yeah, it's deeper than just coming to get a haircut. I would say that it's really about the opportunity to find comfort in uncomfortable conversations that I wouldn't normally have.
Getting that deeper.
The barbers aren't licensed mental health therapists, but Alexander says the training covers what depression looks like, what you see and don't see, and how to approach clients.
If we feel, or if we see, or if we hear our clients going through a certain mental issue, then we use those tools from that presentation.
Alexander's concern with mental health isn't just for others, but also himself. Diagnosed with anxiety and depression, talking with clients also helps him.
I use it as a mirror. So when I talk to Elliot, I talk to others, I'm talking to myself. And I need that therapy too for myself. So it's twofold. All right, my brother. I appreciate it. Catch us giving 5. Right. All right, man. Appreciate you, man.
I for sure appreciate you.
Eileenstreet, Spectrum News. Meet Mark Pfeiffer, the founder of Wiggle Wow, a specialty dog treat company based in Jeffersontown, Kentucky.
They actually are better warm, so. Not quite done yet, though. They need to cook a little bit longer.
Pfeiffer left the corporate world in 2019 to start Wiggle Wow, a company inspired by his nephew who has autism. Wiggle Wow's purpose goes beyond just creating treats canines love and humans can stomach. It also exists to create jobs for people like Emily Parks, who has Prader-Willi syndrome, or Sarah Potter, who has Down syndrome and is nonverbal.
This is a society where we as a culture just kind of push them to the side and don't really give them the opportunities. We're all children, right? And we're all his children, and we all have different skills and abilities. And so I see it's my responsibility to try to help bring out through Wiggle Wow whatever they're capable of doing.
The 56-year-old says he's often asked by business owner friends about why he hires people with disabilities.
And so I just asked him a couple questions. I said, so do you have any young employees? And they said, well, absolutely. I go, and they always show up on time and every day for work, right? And they kind of laugh and shrug off and like, yeah, right. You know, the younger generation, they're not like that. They don't have the same work ethic. And I go, I never have that problem. My employees always show up.
Wiggle Wow also doesn't have any hiring issues, despite the current labor shortage. Right now, there's a waiting list to work in the kitchen, aka the doghouse.
I mean, the fact that we have just under 50 people on our waiting list right now, there are so many other employees, other companies that need to hire this population and give them an opportunity.
You're talking about individuals that are self-motivated because they've had to be. That's the only way they're successful. They're extremely honest to a fault.
That's David Wilf, founder of Exteller, a Washington, D.C. area-based staffing firm that specializes in job placement for people with disabilities. Pre-pandemic, Wilf says Exteller was in 7 U.S. states. Now it's in 23.
We have companies that are telling us that they're 40 people shy, 60 people shy. They're working with 4, 5, 6 different staffing agencies that are providing maybe one person a month, and that person lasts a week. They contact us. We're able to provide them with 40 resources within 2 weeks.
Wilf says a big percentage of job placements by Exteller are in production, but other opportunities are also on the table.
There's an individual right now who's a vice president at a major financial institution. And nobody would ever guess that that individual has autism.
Wiggle Wow has no connection to Exteller and finds its own employees. Pfeiffer attributes Wiggle Wow's success with dogs to a secret ingredient.
Like all the red pieces of bacon, I mean, those are all, it's real bacon that's in our treats.
But he credits Wiggle Wow's success as a for-profit business to his employees.
People always think, oh, you know, you're such a blessing to so many other people. That's not it at all. I get so many blessings just seeing these individuals progress and learn new skills that even their parents didn't think they were capable of doing. And that just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. Which Pfeiffer says makes hiring these epic chefs worth it. Eileen Street, Spectrum News. The first time Bob Murphy got tested for COVID-19 was when he had the virus last February.
Well, I was hospitalized for 7 days, but I had a really good doctor and he got me out of there fast.
Alrighty. He hasn't been tested since because he says he hasn't had any known exposures to COVID-19. No symptoms. And he mostly stays away from other people.
It tickles. It doesn't hurt at all, but it does tickle.
His second COVID-19 test ever because it's required prior to his back surgery. Murphy also planned to take an at-home antigen COVID-19 test the night before surgery.
Do you personally know the difference between the antigen and PCR test?
I really don't. I don't. But I trust them both.
Murphy's PCR test swab was sent to a Norton Healthcare lab and analyzed in this machine for 3 hours, with final results sent to Murphy in 24 to 48 hours, says Norton Healthcare's Chief of Microbiology, Alan Junkins.
So the molecular test, the PCRs, detect the RNA that's in the virus, the nucleic acid. So what they do is they take a little piece of RNA and they multiply it many, many, many times over again. So they can detect a much smaller quantity of virus.
Antigen tests don't analyze the RNA of COVID-19 like PCR tests. Instead, it detects COVID-19 viral proteins, which makes them less sensitive.
I think they are good tests. Their weakness is that it takes a lot more virus to be positive than it would on a molecular instrument. It may take 1,000 times more virus before that's going to be positive, that antigen test. So you have to kind of keep that in mind.
But less sensitive means less expensive. Antigen tests cost $5 to $50 versus $75 to $100 per PCR test. While antigen tests are easy enough to take at home, Junkin says it's important to take an antigen test when symptomatic.
If you take it too early, it's going to be negative, and if you take it too late, it's going to be negative. So the best time is right around when symptoms develop.
If you're asymptomatic but were exposed to COVID-19, Junkin says take a PCR test 5 to 7 days after exposure.
Give the virus a chance to get going so that you have enough there to be detectable.
So it's just comforting to know that the test is there, that if I do need it, I don't have to look for a place to go get a test done. I can just do it at home.
But Murphy says he probably won't test often because he plans to still stay away from people.